All right, and we do have one more minute before we'll get started. Jen is out sick, you guys, so she won't be with us today. Um, but that's okay. We're cool. We got this. Easy peasy. And it's going to be a small group. When I checked the registration, we had about 15 people registered. So it's summer though. It's, people are traveling.
Yeah, take their summer Fridays.
Hmm. I have one lady in our office. She has like PTO every Friday in June and July. That's her thing. And
Smart.
I'm like, I don't blame her.
If you got it, use it.
Absolutely.
See, there's one big
All
advantage
right.
of being retired is I take that time during the week when you all are working. Where I go, there's no lines.
I like that idea too.
I'll start counting down the clock until I'm there.
Maybe a little early for that.
Unless I do really well. Who knows?
Exactly. There you go.
There you go. Good attitude.
Stars.
Like it.
All right, we're gonna give it just one more minute. It's 11 o'clock on the dot. People are logging in, and then we'll start with the housekeeping in just a minute. Chantel's joining us. Frank's with us. It's gonna be a great group.
Another great author.
I know her fairy tale book is something else. And I was telling Chantel, I've been quoting her in one of my classes for like 100 years before I even met her. And I'm like, Chantel, I just realized I've been quoting you in my class this whole time. Oh, Kristen, welcome to the party. It's gonna be a great cool session today.
Hello. How is everyone doing?
We are just doing great. I'm doing great. It's Friday.
Me too. Tomorrow's my birthday, actually, so I can't complain.
Oh,
Happy early birthday, Bree.
Happy early
Yeah.
birthday.
yes. You guys, I put our speakers' LinkedIn profiles on in the chat. If you're not following them on LinkedIn, you should definitely be following them. And I think that we're gonna get started with the housekeeping stuff. So welcome everybody to our July webinar. We are just absolutely thrilled that you can join us. I know it's hot outside and people are vacationing. My little niece, I was driving her in the car the other day and she was a little grumpy and she's like, this hotness just makes me mad. And I'm like, right there with you, kid, right there with you. But we are absolutely thrilled that you could take time out. We've got an amazing session today. So before we get started, I do have some housekeeping things I got to do, or Mike will fire me. So let me share my screen. We put these webinars on every month, the second Friday of the month. Our next webinar will be in August. We're having Robert Smith come in and he's going to be talking about enhancing engagement. And we're really looking forward to that. If you're not a member of Site, you absolutely should be. I love this organization. I was telling our presenters earlier that Site is all about making everybody in the industry that teaches and educates better. A rising tide lifts all boats. So it doesn't matter if you're adjusting, if you're underwriting, if you're an agent, if you're teaching about what you do, we want to make sure that you're doing that to the best of your ability. We have an annual conference. We just came back from Tennessee. It was amazing. We have the ITP designation. We have just an amazing resource where you can network and get help if you're stuck. Make sure to check out our website and join if you're not a member. It is 100% worth it. And if you want more details about joining, reach out to me. I'll tell you all the great things and how to get your employer support. We have a swag store. If you see Mike in the chat, he's wearing one of our t-shirts. Make sure you go check out the swag store, get you some swag. There's stickers, there's cups, there's shirts, there's all kinds of cool stuff. And I always wanted to say this. make sure to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. People say that all the time, right? Like and subscribe. So go check us out on YouTube. We try to record these sessions every month and we put them out on YouTube. And if you happen to miss, you can go find us there. All right, we have Paige, Briana, and Isabella with us today, and we are just absolutely thrilled. If you have seen them on LinkedIn, they are very in the zone with L&D, and they write articles about that, and they practice what they preach. And so we are just absolutely happy that that they are with us today. So with that being said, let me introduce them because that would be nice. Paige is a manager in content development with the Institutes. She is passionate about continuing education and is a member of the 2024 30 Under 30 cohort with a genuine love for innovation and dedication to improving learning. Paige is making waves in the world of education. Her journey into the world of learning began in the K through 12 education sector with all the little munchkins. That sounds like a nightmare. Where she honed her skills as a teacher across multiple grade levels. This diverse background gives her a unique perspective, allowing her to approach adult learning challenges with fresh eyes and creativity. In her current role, Paige has achieved significant career milestones, including a promotion to a managerial position and recognition through enterprise-wide awards. Woohoo! Paige's commitment to ethical workplace culture and innovative thinking has earned her recognition as a trailblazer in her organization. Beyond the workplace, she's also an active participant in industry events and a contributing writer for publications, sharing insights on various educational topics to spark meaningful conversations and inspire fellow professionals. Looking ahead, Paige is eager to further her contributions to the L&D community, aiming to become a trusted thought leader and engage with others across the industry. So we are so excited to have Paige. And she works with our friend Jen, and that is like a full-time job there. So Jen's not
Jen
here.
is wonderful to work with.
she is.
She's a dream.
We also are super excited that Isabella Barker is here with us. She is learning and development with Pure Insurance, and we love Pure. We just had Dr. Greger come speak with us, so we love Pure. She has a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology and expertise in instructional design, learning and development, talent and leadership development, and program management. Her passion for people is evident in her dedication to creating the highest quality content for her company, including onboarding events, training materials, mentorship resources, and more. As a trusted resource in her company, she drives growth and initiatives that enhance employees' engagement and performance, and designs and implements effective learning programs through cross collaboration across departments. Her efforts significantly improve the overall employee experience and foster a culture of continuous learning and development. She is also a member of the Learning Guild's 2024 30 Under 30 cohort. And last but not least is Briana Gattis. She is an instructional designer at the Baldwin Group. She is an accomplished L&D professional with a passion for driving innovation within organizations. She possesses professional certifications, including SHRM CP, APHR, and has received multiple peer and company nominating awards. As a thought leader in her field, she has championed several innovative practices, including cultivating a culture of creativity. She has spearheaded initiatives to foster creativity, encouraging employees to think outside the box and embrace novel solutions. Following Kathy Moore's Map It methodology, Briana adheres to the Kathy Moore's Map It approach, which emphasizes practical, action-oriented learning design. This methodology ensures that learning experiences align with real-world needs, focusing on performance outcomes rather than mere content delivery. We are so excited to have all three of you with us. And I think I need to go check out this Learning Guild's 30 under 30 cohort. I'm going to fake my age and get in is what I'm going to do. I mean, what's 20-year difference?
I won't tell if you don't.
Mm.
We are just thrilled to have everybody. We're going to get started. Paige, I'm going to toss you a question and then you guys we'll see how it goes. What is one belief about professional development you held early in your career that you have since changed your mind about?
Ooh, I like this question. I really think, especially coming from K-12, that professional development gets seen as a luxury, something that is extra that, you should really bow down and say thank you for, which is true to an extent, but really, in this day and age, with technology is just continuously advancing, it's a survival skill to do your professional development. Those who do not are going to fall behind very rapidly.
Absolutely. Um, Anybody want to chime in?
Yeah, I'd love to add to that one a little too. I think that I thought professional development was all, courses and certifications, but so much of it is just what you're already doing at work, but looking at it through a different lens or doing something a little outside of the scope of what fits into your job title. Stretch assignments are just as much professional development as a LinkedIn Learning course or, a $2,000 conference or whatever it is. You can definitely do it without spending a bunch of money. And I thought all professional development was expensive when I started.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
great point.
Building off of that, it feels like, or early on, it felt like, oh, I'll just do this one thing, this course or this certification or join this group. And that will really contribute to the learning. But it really is just in the day to day. If you are open to allowing things to be a learning opportunity, the day to day mundane can just as easily, you know, allow you that growth as well.
I like it. I'm always telling people to take advantage of free resources because you don't have to spend the money. There's so much out there on LinkedIn or YouTube. So those are some great points. Isabella, what helps you connect with your sense of curiosity when you're feeling overwhelmed or just uninspired, when you're not in the mood to get that content created?
So I like to dabble when I'm feeling maybe a little burnt out on L&D. I try to go find learning opportunities in some adjacent but different fields or industries, and just allow myself to like take a step back from what I might be used to learning, open that door for something new and fresh, and then just try to play around with how I can incorporate that into my role or within the insurance industry or whatever it might be. Also, sometimes I give myself like a brain break. I'm like, okay, I'm too in the weeds. Like, what's one thing I can do for literally 10 minutes? And sometimes that's just like throwing on a podcast or watching a YouTube video and just giving myself a few minutes to listen to someone talk about something interesting to me, and hopefully that will respark that joy from learning. Just giving myself a little bit of a break to go learn or hear something new.
Yeah. I know personally when I get stuck, I'm like, let me go play Minecraft for 10 minutes and just unwind.
Yeah.
10 minutes turns into an hour, so maybe don't do that. No, Brianna, Paige, I want to chime in, or you
I
good?
would love to. I think everyone who knows me is really sick of hearing me talk about Offbeat's Trend Map. They're an organization that does an L&D trends map. I think it might have been the first this year. Don't quote me on it, and I'd be happy to drop the link. But they keep track of what is really important in L&D right now, and then also looks out into the future and what's growing. And I tend to, when I get stuck, um, compare that to my current projects and see how I could be a bit more innovative with what I'm doing rather than just doing what I've always done, because that is what we've always done, which is, kind of a death sentence in L&D to a certain extent. But yeah, I will definitely drop that link in the chat.
Please do so.
And I think
Um,
they got everything I would have said.
Brianna's like, they covered it. Check,
Yep.
check, check. Well, Brianna, I know you're recently in a new position. What is one thing that you had to unlearn to level up your game?
I'm so glad you asked me this one. I think that this has been something I've had to revisit a lot starting a new role. And I definitely learned early in my last position that you've heard it a million times, perfection is the enemy of done. If I'm waiting for everything to be absolutely perfect, I'm never going to cross the finish line. Figuring out where it's reasonable to make compromises, and if you're still not able to get to a comfortable point, just send it to somebody else and let them look at it. And chances are their perception of it is going to be a lot better than yours. So I guess being really rigid and self-critical of what I'm doing, it won't pay off as much as I think it will. That extra 2 to 5% is not going to matter as much as being able to have an end result that can actually help learners in the workplace. That extra time could be better used by them than by me.
Mhm.
How do you feel when you hand something off to somebody and they're like, "Oh, this is great. Why are you being so hard on yourself?" How do you handle that emotion? Because I'm always like, "No," and I go down the list of everything is wrong with it, and it's like a whole nother session there.
I just take the win. If somebody's happy with it, especially in L&D, most of the time the SMEs and the stakeholders they're not experts in what you're doing, and if they're not wanting anything more, I can take that as a win and maybe use that as a lesson that things I've been hard on myself before, I don't have to be. And obviously, I think that there's limits. There's things that we should strive for more in. And I think there's things we maybe can strive for a little less in. For me, I think something I'm trying to do more of is like accessibility. And then in another direction, maybe I don't care as much about making things super complex and with tons of branching. Sometimes that is more effort than it's worth, but then I can reutilize that effort in a different way. So that's kind of how I like to frame it.
I love it. Take the win and go. I'm
Yeah.
gonna put that on my sticky note. Paige, um, how do you stay grounded when and avoid the pressure? And a lot of it is internal pressure, um, to have to know it all when trends in the L&D world are constantly evolving. How do you keep up with all that and avoid that pressure?
Yeah, so I think you need to find your L&D tribe, if you will. Find people that you trust, that you can say, hey, I heard about this. Do you know anything? Isabella and Bree are very much those people for me. Um, and you want people who will be honest with you. I think that's another important element. You don't want to just find yes people who will say, oh yeah, I heard about that too. That's great. You want someone who will say, I think that's a little overhyped, or have you considered this instead? And finding those people you can trust to lead you into these apparently never ending new trends and new technologies is incredibly necessary.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think it's great that you guys have each other. And that's one of the good things about Sight that we have. It's important to have your tribe, like you said, and people to reach out to. Um, let's see, Isabella.
Mhm.
If someone is just starting to take their own development seriously, what's one small step you'd recommend that they could take maybe even this week or this month?
Yeah. So, I mean, truly start small. You don't, what is that silly saying? Like you can't eat the elephant in one bite or something like that,
How do you eat the elephant one bite at a
Yeah,
time?
one bite at a time, right? So it's with and I actually wrote an article with the training industry on this. So it worked out that you asked me this question. I'll drop the link in the chat in just a minute, but truly just start small. Find something you're interested in and find that podcast, find a video about it, find someone in your network or somebody that you follow on LinkedIn, and just take 10 minutes to just go check out something new, and see, what you can learn in just that small amount of time. And just, naturally, when you're learning anything, whether it's work related or not, you learn by practicing and allowing yourself to be challenged, and then you evolve and you learn more, and you get more comfortable, and that kind of is a domino effect that will just send you into a spiral of learning new things and finding those passions. So I think, yeah, just starting small and allowing yourself the space to try new things, find different niches, and see what works, what drives you.
I love that. It can be scary trying something new, but if you do a small thing and maybe talk about it with your friends and your tribe, it really makes it better, especially if you're practicing, right? Because it's great to practice in front of people that support you, and you can learn and get better. And Isabella posted the link, so you guys make sure to check out. And Paige posted the Offbeat Works link too, so you guys keep an eye on the chat. I love it. Let's see. Oh, this is a great question, and I'm just going to open it up to whoever wants to respond. What do you wish more professionals understood about how learning actually sticks over time?
I would love to take this one. I think that if a learning exercise, activity, if it doesn't focus on the behavior, on the doing, then it's probably going to miss the mark. Think about how many articles you could read in a day. Coming from an instructional design perspective, so much of like what I see and read is really just like a list of information, and it's really hard to retain anything that way. Even if you are somebody who can retain it all just from reading, if there isn't at least repetition or an opportunity to practice, or some type of like situation-based knowledge check or something like that, it won't last very long. They might take it for the hour or the day, but until they have to repeat it for some other reason, it's not going to be impactful. So, if you can introduce repetition and activities in any learning experience, live, instructor-led, articles, courses, whatever it is, do that whenever possible.
Brie, I think you crawled into my mind there, because that was almost word for word what I was going to say, especially in the insurance industry and continuing ed specifically, which is kind of my realm of things. There's a lot of just kind of checking a box that goes along where we say, well, it just needs to give them the information and then they're done. They just want to sit down and then be done with it. But the truth is, when you give them actionables at the end of how to continue on and how to use what they've learned, you're going to start seeing students reaching out and saying, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was very useful. And everything in adult learning theory says the more relevant it is, the more they will retain. So
100%.
Yeah. And us as the trainers, we also have to, find ways for ourselves to, retain that information. So just as a challenge, whether it's something technical, or even if it's just something minor you're exploring, if you have an opportunity to try to teach someone what you're learning, that is like the number one way that I retain information, is being like, okay, how do I put this into terms for someone who has no idea what I'm talking about, because it breaks it down for me further. So I challenge everyone to, as you're learning new things, to try to yeah, figure out how to express that to other people, because that is quite the challenge.
Yes, this is some great. I remember one time I was so confused. An underwriter was coming back and telling me why we couldn't cover something. And I'm like, look, I have to turn around and explain this to my insured. So can you explain this to me like I'm five? And then
Mhm.
and she laughed, but she did. And
Mhm.
then when I could explain it to them, and everybody was able to grasp that concept better. I love that. All right, this question is great. I'm going to open it up. I want everybody to answer it. What is one L&D myth or outdated belief you think needs to be challenged in 2025?
Oh, I'm going to kick
I
us
bet
off.
we're going to say the same one.
I'll just say, I think people want learning to be easy and comfortable. And oftentimes it's not. So we need to move away from hoping and believing that it is going to be a linear progression, and just accept the fact that it is going to be mountainous. There are going to be highs and lows, but those are the moments that are truly recreating the way you move forward in the L&D world or in your industry. So be okay with, being uncomfortable.
I love that. Highs and lows.
I
I have
totally agree. I think like just like any mind exercise is just like physical exercise. If it's too
Mhm.
easy, you're probably not making progress. And I think that that's great advice. I also want to say learning styles. I know that that is very controversial. A lot of people don't totally think that learning styles aren't real. And whether you do or not, there's a lot of research that says it doesn't. There's a lot of research that says that they are real. But in any case, you can't assume the learning style of all of your learners based on their job role. So if you think that one modality is enough for everyone, it rarely is. You know, if you can incorporate audio, video, doing, reading, seeing, if you can do all of that in one learning opportunity, you're going to meet the most people where they are and actually have outcomes for everybody.
Brianna, I want you to
love
say that
both of
again
those.
louder for the people in the back.
Learning styles aren't real.
Love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
I would actually like to add, and I don't know that it's just an L&D problem, but maybe more so an L&D, the work-life balance where you need to deplete yourself so that students are as successful as possible. There's a lot of burnout in learning and development. And I had a very wonderful boss when I switched, well, I still do, when I switched into this job, who really had to unteach me that that was the way to go about things, because when you're depleted, you're not creating the best learning content. When you're on zero, whatever you develop, be it a webinar, a podcast, a class, it's not going to have the same impact that it would if you were able to go into that at 100% or even 80.
Absolutely. You can't pour from an empty pitcher. So it is important to recharge and refresh and revitalize yourselves. I have to go back to this learning styles. It cracks me up. I taught a webinar one time that was specifically about different learning styles. And I just was like, I'm gonna start it off by saying some people don't believe in this, some people do. Whatever we call it, people do learn different ways. Some of us learn better visually, or some of us learn better reading or doing. And I just really, the nerd in me loves to dig down into that actual science, and I love reading like two articles that fight each other. I'm all about that. Well, let's talk on the subject of myths. What is something that looks like professional development, but it often turns out to be a distraction?
This is one that I actually heard at the conference where I met Bree and Isabella, and it has stuck with me ever since. It is when leadership goes to a conference and comes back with a new initiative that they want you to look into. And more often than not, and what I heard said at that conference is it's usually something that's already been considered. And if it has not been completed, it is normally because logistically it does not work or results were not what we wanted to see. I think that being able to keep a record of when things like that don't work out or why we logistically decided not to do that, we're better able to combat that loss of time in professional development where we're not going back again and looking at something that we've already ruled out.
I like that. You want to walk carefully along that line, I imagine, because you don't want to get in the habit of saying, well, we tried that before and it didn't work. But if you have the data, we tried it before and it didn't work because of this, what new idea do you have to change it,
Great
right?
point.
Mhm. Mhm.
Isabella, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think another one that is a distraction is, and we've kind of touched on it, but when, if you go to a big workshop or a webinar, or like Paige said, like leadership comes back from a conference and they're really excited and we're all going to get in a room together and talk about this new gameplay. But it's just that hour that you're in the room hearing it, and then there's no follow-up. There's no like retrieval of that. There's none of this is sticking. It's like, I just spent, it's the same trope. Could this hour-long meeting have been an email? It's the same sort of concept where it's like, okay, we're in a room, we're spending this hour together and we're talking about all these things, but what comes next? Where's the follow through? I think that in the learning space is yeah, just that. It's a distraction. It's, when are we actually getting down to the point, the nitty gritty, and finding the follow through?
Absolutely. That's great. And then I think in the insurance world, especially if we're dealing like with CE or state requirements, we have a lot of, every state has their own specific rules if we're teaching a CE class. So maybe something sounds great and wonderful in learning and development, but we can't, so your leadership comes back and they're like, well, we want you to do this. We just saw it at a conference. Well, that's great. And it is wonderful, but it doesn't work for our state mandated compliance, right? So that's always something to consider. I really struggle with this personally, is how do you define staying relevant in the field of L&D? How do you check in with yourself to make sure that you're doing everything you can to be the best that you can be? I sound like a army commercial, be the best that you can be. I don't know. Um, what do y'all think? What are some things that you do to try to make sure you're on top of your game?
For me,
Yeah, go ahead, Brie.
Oh, thank you. I think stepping outside of your organization a little bit, sometimes your own coworkers, your own local team can be a little bit of an echo chamber. You are all using the same tools, you all have the same leader, so you're kind of shooting towards the same direction. But sometimes when you talk to somebody else, obviously, you might not be able to share proprietary work or something with them, but you can ask for good advice. And whether that's like something like this, a webinar, maybe like a peer group you're a part of, or even I lean a lot on the articulate e-learning challenges. Even if I don't have the capacity to complete them myself, I'll often look at them and see what other people are doing and what kinds of new tools people are incorporating into their styles. You don't always need a shiny new tool, but sometimes it can remind you of something that you haven't played around with in a while that can be great for your current situation or something that you'll have in the future.
Mhm.
Love that.
Paige, you want to go next?
So, Brie stole my thoughts exactly on that one.
On
You
the
guys,
same
I
page
love
with
this. You
you.
can tell that y'all are so much in sync with each other and friends because y'all are like, you read my mind. You read my mind.
And that was literally my answer. It was like, staying relevant is this. It's having the connection. We met in our 30 under 30 cohort. So we were at a conference that was all about L&D. It was all about our industry. But then we had this like siloed group of 30 of us that lived literally across the world, and all do slightly different work, but still can connect on so many things. And that this like stream of communication for me keeps me relevant, because I'm like, oh, this is like, I'm building out a course. What has Bree done for this? Or, I'm interested in this one thing. Well, Paige has written 3 different articles about it. So I think having a network that you can rely on is really, really impactful. And also, if I ever have a question, if they don't have the answers, they probably know where to send me, which is incredible.
I love it. What do you think? Why do you think sometimes as L&D professionals, we find it so hard for us to prioritize our own development and our own learning? You know, it's like I always want to make sure my students are doing great, but sometimes I forget about myself.
Well, Ruth, you kind of said it earlier. You can't pour from an empty cup. And that is what we do as L&D professionals. We are constantly pouring into other people and into their professional development. And then at the end of the day, it's like, well, what do I have left for myself? You know, they say HR needs to have HR, and it's the same thing. L&D professionals need to have L&D resources for ourselves. I think also too, like for me personally, I'm building a lot of the e-learning courses that are all about professional development, you know, feedback, trust, you know, communication, all of those things. And so I'm constantly in the weeds of creating this course, but then there are moments where I'm like, okay, but I need to go back and review this with the outside lens, not in edit mode on Articulate, but, you know, in Workday as a learner. And then from there, I need to, you know, find further resources because we don't want it to stop when our workday ends. We need that to continue for ourselves as well. So it takes a conscious effort, that is for sure. But it really does help having a network around you that encourages that, because I think that helps as well of, well, I've been staring at this resource for so long. But somebody I know is going to have something that I need, and let me rely on them to give me that learning opportunity. So
I think it's kind of the idea of like doctors make the worst patients. Instructors make the worst learners a lot of the time because it becomes an us them thing of we aren't the learners, we prepare for the learners. And also in L&D, it is probably more odd than not to not be wearing multiple hats at the same time. We are in almost every department. A lot of the time I find myself talking across cross-functional teams, and it becomes hard to even know what to focus on sometimes. I think that's a huge part of why L&D professionals have a hard time. As we've kind of already talked about today, there's a lot out there, and learning what to prioritize can be very hard.
Sure. Ditto, both of you.
How many of you guys are like in a class that you're taking as a student, and you're, instead of like focusing on the material, you're too busy critiquing their teaching methods, or even worse, their PowerPoints? I will not lie. I have taken a picture while I was in a class of somebody's PowerPoint and sent it to somebody else and be like, look at all of these colors they use. What were they thinking?
That yellow is not accessible.
Yep, every time.
It's a little distracting. How do you turn off? Patrick is putting in chat. I never do that. Maybe once. Uh-huh. How do you it's a real struggle sometimes to turn that hat off and be like, I need to focus and learn. Do y'all deal with that sometimes? Maybe. Maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm just extra bossy. Um, maybe.
It's hard for me to get there sometimes. I definitely am guilty of being more critical of learning opportunities, whether it's something live or not. Sometimes you just have to go in a different direction, maybe like use something that is totally different than what you would normally create. I tend to really enjoy listening to like a podcast or something like that, or a webinar, specifically because it's a format I am not so used to that I'm able to like anticipate what's coming next. And for me, that works really well to learn in a different mode than I typically create. So that's something I like to do to keep me from doing that.
That's a
That's a
great
good
point.
idea. That's great. How do you guys well, let me ask you a fun question. And you guys can drop a link in the chat if you want to. But who is somebody that you follow on LinkedIn or wherever, somebody that influences you, somebody that you like a lot, like your L&D hero maybe?
I'm
You
going
know,
to put dibs on Parker. He's one of our cohort members. And he is just on top of all the trends. We co-host a young learning leaders group together. But he is just wonderful about actually knowing who to follow on certain subjects. But I will absolutely drop his LinkedIn because if you are not following him, highly recommend doing so. He is lovely.
All right. I love it.
Yeah, Paige, it's so funny because I was like, oh, they're probably gonna throw out, the big names that we all know. And I'm gonna say someone in our cohort because that I mean it's just to me it feels so much more like personal and accessible when it's somebody that you either know or can get to. And so that has really been like the joy of our 30 under 30 program is like our cohort is amazing, but also we have Chloe John and Jerry Sauser. They were our co-leads, which also shout out to Bree. She is the 2025 co-lead. So she is our fearless leader for the next oh gosh, I bet they're all like you're getting ready to talk to them now. So she's yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, having those people who kind of have, I mean, quite literally been in our footsteps and have laid the foundation for other people in L&D and are growing their careers. It's just been really fun to follow. I'll drop both of them in the chat. I just think, yeah, expanding that network. Oh, thank you so much, Paige, for putting that in the chat. But yeah, I think like for me at least, I do love seeing the big names. Don't get me wrong. I think it's wonderful. But when I really want to feel connected to L&D and the work that I'm doing, I find that I get that connection more so when it feels like it's on my level. So I encourage you to expand your network that way.
I love it. I love it. Briana.
Yeah, I honestly was gonna say like anyone that you can actually get on the phone with is going to give you a little bit more than like generic advice. It goes back to what Paige was saying about your leadership going to a conference and bringing back a big idea. A lot of those things aren't like the problem or aren't the solutions to like your problems at your organization, and they're probably a lot more nuanced than that. So when you can talk to somebody and brainstorm, you might be surprised to see that there's a lot of problems everyone experiences and no one is talking about at conferences like that. So when you can talk to them and be like, oh my gosh, we just I can't communicate with my stakeholders. They don't understand XYZ or whatever it is you're struggling with. You probably already know somebody who's experienced that and they could give you some advice on how they worked through it. So for me, I think like start small. The big names like Devlin Peck that are super like design focused, like that's really great if you have like a really specific problem you need to work through that's design focused. But I think like for bigger stuff, I lean on someone I already know.
Awesome. I love it. I really think that as professionals, the bigger network we have, it just makes our lives so much easier. I do want to touch on one thing, and it wasn't in the list of questions, so don't shoot me. But I love that you guys are so young and on fire for learning and development. But we do have a lot of either leadership or maybe our direct managers or even some people who are training that may be a little bit more seasoned like me, right? So how do you bridge that generational gap? Maybe, I remember 100 years ago going to classes and they actually had the projector with the little plastic I know y'all are like, what's a projector?
Oh
But
no, we've got that.
But-
We might have been the last group with it, but we do recall.
but you know, and now we're even like PowerPoint's kind of dying out, or we're making it better. How do you bridge that gap and try to bring us old seasoned people into all the new cool hip things?
So Rose Benedict's actually
Oh.
put up a post about this, I think today, and I'll add her LinkedIn as far as someone to follow. She is excellent as well. But she talked about essentially we're learning differently, not better, not worse. When it's our generation or the generation coming up kind of after us, we grew up with everything being very quick. And I think the older generations did not. It was more, um, they needed a pathway where our generation needs to know the end and we can find the pathway. And I think that reflects in the type of development the different generations are looking at and how it's being structured.
I was going to say too, I think I feel really lucky at Pure. Our L&D department is a whole mix of people, and I've been with the company a little over 2 years, but we have a couple people on the technical side of L&D who have been with the company for 16 years and have been in different roles, but now are trainers. And it's been really fun because I think because we're all so different and we have a great culture at the company, but we really value the difference in perspectives. And so it's kind of become a funny thing. Like I'm our workday learning guru. But they also know when they need like the newer apps that they're not familiar with, Biteable for video editing, sometimes Articulate Rise. Any of those, it's really fun because they know like I built a whole SharePoint site for L&D, and it's just been really fun because they're like, you know what, like you are that name for us now that we know we can go to. And because I think it's also how you like welcome the opportunity to share that information. That just kind of like lays the foundation for how you connect across the different generations. And I think when it's there's a mutual understanding of this is what I can help you with, but also you can help me with so many things because your well of knowledge, in my opinion, like it's endless, it's amazing. I think that's just really foundational in like making sure that that connection is there.
Absolutely. 100%. I know we started using a lot of gamification, and some of our senior management people were like, well, we're playing games. What is that? Why is that important? And so once we explained it and showed it, they were like, oh, this is amazing. And then they would tell us like some of the things that they did back when they were teaching. And it wasn't like gamification like we know it today, but it was for what they had, it was pretty close to it. So it was great seeing that and that connection. We've got about 10 minutes left. I want to open up the floor to questions from our audience members or comments. Anybody? Don't everybody talk at once? Because I got more questions for our speakers if nobody has a question. Mike?
I got a question. So we've talked a lot about sort of styles and the rest of that, and I think many of us in this space struggle sometimes with that. But one of the things, and it actually was in the article that you posted, Isabella, it's the evaluation phase, right? I mean, so much of how successful we are as learning and development educators is sort of the feedback that actually they learned something. They learned, in essence, what we'd hoped to, and we gave them opportunities to practice, which I believe in wholeheartedly on anything. Pare it down and give people a chance to work on some pieces rather than just bombard them with 50 things and then expect them to walk away. That's bad. But from the perspective of evaluation, I teach classes, there's evaluation processes, and the level of feedback typically is either we really loved you, and the few people that said I hated that you wore a blue shirt with printing on it. I mean, that's the reality. I'm certain you experience the same things. How do you really focus in on getting valuable feedback. I guess that would help not you understand how well you've done, but also what things you need to change.
I would love to answer this one. I think that if you set yourself up early when you start to plan out your project, when you are collecting information and writing your learning objectives, if those are really actionable things, maybe you don't need to lean on the feedback as much and you can lean on the outcomes. So if all of your objectives are like understand XYZ model, then without the feedback, you'll never know if they understand it. But if it's apply XYZ model, then you should be able to find that data in the workplace outcomes. Sometimes that's harder when you're working with outside organizations because once they have the product, they may not ever tell you if it worked. So a lot of that has to be building relationships where they're so happy with what you provided them that they want to provide you what's valuable to you as well. So you've given them this great learning opportunity. If they love it and they want to continue to foster that relationship, don't be afraid to put the responsibility on whoever the stakeholder is to give you what you need back to continue to give measurable outcomes, and set that up early. You have to collect the before to know if the after is better.
Yeah, to jump on one of Bree's points, I think it is a lot easier to do when they're internal learners than external learners. I work almost exclusively with external learners, and I really learned asking the right questions makes a huge difference. Especially if your only way of getting information is say like a survey or exit interview or something of that variety, instead of asking the broad questions like, did this help you in your work? Did this help you in your work to understand XYZ? And kind of breaking it down into exactly what it helped them understand rather than these broad statements so we can know where to improve, and where we're already doing well.
Since you touched on external users page, I'll speak on internal because that's all I do with my company. And I think it comes down to the culture of learning here, and the way that our L&D teams and HR and our stakeholders, our managers, our leadership foster the idea that learning is so important and valued and truly supported here. So that gives us as the trainers an opportunity to play around with a few different means of requesting feedback. And we just see what works depending on the situation. You know, if it's if it's during onboarding and it's some of our new hires, we might throw in a little like surprise, a little bonus of some sort for a winner if they answer a question for us, or if they respond to a survey, they might get some sort of kudos that they weren't expecting, or if it's we have some emotional intelligence training, and that's an all-day event, and it is stressed throughout the entire training that we want to know what you're thinking of this. So start thinking about like pretty much your review now. So just depending on the context of the situation, we are able to play around with a few different means of requesting that. But again, I think that the root of it comes down to the way the culture of learning here is supported, and people know that their feedback is truly valuable and will be taken into account.
I love that. It's all about getting that buy-in. If you're dealing with internal users, I think that buy-in is absolutely needed. Does anybody else have questions for our panelists? Okay. What's in the chat? No. You guys, I am just so thrilled and thankful that you took time out and hung out with us. This was amazing, and we covered so many great things and great topics and great points. I really, really love this idea that as instructors and trainers, we need to make sure we are operating from full capacity. We need to refill our pitchers. We need to invest in our development, not, criticize other instructors and actually learn. I absolutely love Brianna's idea of doing something different. And I'm going to try that. I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and listen to some more podcasts. Thank you guys so much. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon, a great weekend, and come back and join us next month for our webinar next month. Thank you guys,
Thank you for
everybody.
having us.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you.